Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Boot Nerds podcast. JayMike,
that was a very not very excited. We're back, man. We're back.
It was a surprising thing. I think everyone's surprised, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah. You know, people were so surprised that they saw the thumbnail, they clicked the video, and all of a sudden you jump there. Now we're back. It's great to be back for the mandatory biannual Boot Nerds podcast. we felt we had to come back, right? And and just do some end of the year stuff. Feels like yesterday we were sat here talking about, we're back, 2023. What a vibe, man. And now we're here, 2024.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everyone.
Yeah, it has been a vibe, hasn't it? I mean, it's been a crazy year. So I wanted to count how many releases we've actually had and just gave up. So
it is honestly at this point from when we both started doing this, it is so difficult to look back on a year in football boots and legitimately be able to remember everything.
Oh yeah,
it's impossible.
But look at it this way: the Phantom GX2 came out this year.
Yeah,
the main release, right?
I know.
That's wild. It seems like many years ago. It seems like a while ago, right?
Yeah, and then all the brands decide to just backload the end of the year with a whole bunch of new drops, and it just I don't know. It makes looking back on the year very difficult because when you consider even Predator 25. Yeah, technically Predator 24 came out this year.
I know. It's wild, right? And there's been many ups. There's also been some downs. Obviously, we're going to discuss those in today's podcasts. I think we're just gonna try and go over everything and as much as possible. It might be a gigantic mess because it's not gonna. I just got sick of doing Adi. Let's talk about Adi. So I figured I have a question for you to start with. Your boot surprise of the year 2024. What is that?
I think I have legitimately three, but I think the biggest surprise is definitely what Tsukito Scudetta accomplished. Yeah. I don't, having dabbled in the behind the scenes of football boot development and costs and how many moving parts and bits and pieces are associated to building a one-off pair of football boots. I'm sure you've seen a little bit of it as well. It's monumentally expensive. It's incredibly difficult. Yeah. It's a humongous task. So for a brand like Tsukito, which this isn't their first football boot, granted, but for a small brand in general to go and do what they've achieved with the final quality of that product is, I genuinely don't think we've ever seen it before in the world of football.
No, I agree. It's probably the best first entry into the football boot world I think I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Granted, the Skechers stuff last year was also really, really good. Mm-hmm. But it just feels like, Skechers, it's a different beast, right? It's a gigantic company. And of course, they hired in some Nike people who knew what they were doing. Obviously, they could just go and make basically a Nike boot under the Skechers name, right? Whereas these guys, they just almost started from scratch and have given us this for €200. Nah, that is impressive. I agree with you. That is a big and very positive surprise. What else have you got? Two more.
I've got both. I don't want to have a ton of recency bias, but I really think what Adidas just dropped in the different Copa variations was genuinely surprising. I think Pure 3 Elite. Yeah. You're so ready.
I know it's coming. Basically,
I think Pure 3 Elite is surprising in the sense that it kind of backpedals a little bit on the direction that they've been taking the Copa series since it became a thing, the modern Copa series, of course, where it's trended towards this kind of thinner, more barefoot feel. Well, there's nothing wrong with that with super soft leather. That does feel great, but almost every football boot is thin these days. So I like the fact that they've gone back, they've given us something a little bit padded, and in a lot of ways, while I know people are upset about the lack of kangaroo leather, I think that this kind of relates to something like a Nike Tiempo Legend 9, which people are super upset is no longer a thing because Legend 10 is a mess.
Mate, let's be real here for a second. if you don't tell people what this boot is, and you let them put it on their feet, and you're gonna ask them what material it is, I bet you a lot of them will say it's kangaroo leather. At the end, does it matter? Are we being like a little bit, all of us nerds, are we being a little bit, boot snobs, kangaroo leather snobs, in the sense that, yeah, I would also have liked it to be kangaroo leather because it is just a little bit nicer than calf leather, to be fair. But what Adidas have done with the calfskin upper here is remarkable, and it's so soft. I've worn these for so I have a test boot, and I wore this for the review, and what, like 2.5 hours in total, maybe. And it's like, you'd think I'd worn it for a season.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculously soft, and it's calf leather. Impressive. So I'm just saying, if people are sat out there thinking, calf leather, stop yourself. No, it's actually good. So
I do agree with you.
That was a big surprise.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and it speaks volumes that Declan Rice swapped his Copa 19 or 20.1s for these. And I said in my video, I don't know if you agree or not, but I could see if Toni Kroos had still been playing, I could actually see him, he probably wouldn't, but I could see him actually giving this a go and liking it because it's that good.
Like half a training session, yeah, probably.
And maybe half a training session. back to the 11 Pros. And I can probably guess what your other surprise is out of the Copa range, which is the Icon 2, which is also a calf leather upper. It's not fusion skin, so it's just like a clean piece of kangaroo leather. It's not kangaroo leather, but it feels that way. It's just a clean piece of calf leather. Lovely stitching on it, and the shape of the boot is wonderful. It's lightweight. It has this amazing. It's very minimal, the heel counter, but the suede on the inside super comfortable. It has obviously Morelia Neo 4 vibes.
Big time.
It definitely has, and it's been developed with Adidas' Japanese team for the Japanese market, of course. And it just like this says Adipure SL, 11 Pro SL, and even like maybe an Adidas Petite SL, it has those Japanese Petite vibes, Petite, whatever, however you say that. But yeah, and it's 180 euros. Compared to the 240 euros of the Copa Pure 3.
Yeah, which in a lot of ways, I think for the vast majority, when you're talking about just like pound for pound value for money, Copa Icon 2 is the much better deal over Pure 3.
Oh, 100,
I don't want to discount Pure 3 because I think it still has more of that like modern appeal in terms of the way that it feels. Again, the close relation minus the memory foam inserts would be something like a Tiempo Legend 9, which is obviously a very well-liked pair of football boots.
Yeah.
Icon 2 definitely is on the more traditional side of things. Obviously, the comparison everyone wants to make is the Morelia Neo. I think it has more Morelia to it than the Morelia Neo does. Yeah. In the sense that it's just a little bit, it's not as slim as a Neo by any means.
No.
It's a lot more traditional. Like a Morelia, but still obviously has that structure because of the synthetic you have through the midfoot. But it's kind of one of those boots that, similar to the Pure 3 Elite, I just would have never expected them to actually produce it. And then for them to release it at the price point that they have is pretty unheard of in what is going to be 2025, where seemingly the price of everything is going up. So to have a 180 retail, and then you're going to be able to get them on sale for probably around $150, maybe a little bit less than that. In terms of bang for your buck, pretty nuts. However, I will make one little gripe about that price tag in that it is the same price as the Copa Mundial. And not to circle back to the kangaroo leather thing, but I feel compelled to still argue in favor of kangaroo leather because all of these brands, including Adidas themselves, they've kind of like knocked that in our head for how many years that this is the best material. This is so for them to take it away and then charge more, I'm not a fan of. But if you can get a kangaroo leather made in Germany Copa Mundial, and I understand that is their genuine icon, like it's one of the flagships, it's one of the most important pieces of footwear that the Adidas brand makes. I don't see a reason why Copa Icon can't also be kangaroo leather for that same price tag.
2024.
I know, and I know it has. There's a much bigger picture issue here when you're talking about the use of kangaroo leather in terms of distribution and even brand image at this point. Like,
but that's
canceling is a real thing these days.
Yeah,
so
I reckon that's it. I mean, if they continue making the Copa Mundials in kangaroo leather, then that must be the only reason. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs, but I can only imagine that's the reason why. But you're right, and maybe for the Copa Icon to really be a hit, maybe if they could have reached a price point of 160 euros. That might have been psychologically a little bit better, because then you have if you're looking at something like the Mizuno Monacida Neo, which is like, I think either 155 or 160 euros, which is I know it's synthetic, but it's a very good synthetic boot. Also, you could argue that it's kind of similar to this as well. It's a slightly wider fit than the Marilla Neo, but still a very good football boot for the money. Are people going to choose that? But I'd much rather, let's just put it that way, I'd much rather have the Copa Icon 2 than the 442s. To me.
Me too.
It's just a better fit. It's a phenomenal fit.
Yeah, it's a more comfortable football boot.
I agree.
Overall, but I think in particular that heel design, it's the best within the brand.
Yeah. And the heel design, we're going to talk about that in a second. It's going to be a brilliant segue to me ranting for 5 minutes. You know what's coming. But the heel on a football boot, we don't talk about it enough. And we've said it in reviews over the last many years, right? If you don't get the heel right, you can ruin a football boot. You can also have a great heel, and we'll also see that in a second, and the rest of the boot can be underwhelming, but that is what it is. But yeah, having that heel that just fits so well and hugs the foot nicely without having pressure points, suede liner, perfect. And I agree, both the Pure 3 and the Icon 2 do that very well. So those were the big surprises. I agree with all of them. They would be what I would be talking about as well. Disappointments of the year.
Well, in my recent video, the biggest disappointment in terms of like a general release for me was,
let me guess,
King Ultimate. I just think that while it does improve upon last year's King Ultimate, which was even worse, by the way, it's still such a lost product in terms of what it's trying to do and for how much it costs. I don't see how anyone... Maybe this is weird because this is how my brain works. Having tried everything, I always put myself in the perspective of I'm at a store like Unisport, as an example, in store.
Brilliant choice.
In Copenhagen. Yes. I have the opportunity to try on every football boot in and around that price point. There is absolutely no way anyone is picking that Puma King Ultimate. No way.
You're right.
Like something's wrong with you if that's the case.
And I would say the only thing this does better than some of the competition is the heel. The heel is absolutely phenomenal. That Ortholite insert, it's wicked. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, even if you have an absolutely killer fitting heel, then it just can't save the rest of the boot. Is it bad? I don't think it's particularly, bad in that I put it on and I feel anger, resentment towards the Puma team. It's not like they ruined it. It's just not, mind-blowingly good either. It fails at doing what it wants to do, which is to be a leather replacement boot, leather alternative. I don't think it replaces leather that well enough. It's you can wear it and not hate your life, and it's all right when you break it in. But I'd rather have the Legends. Over the Legends, I'd probably take the 442s. Over the 442s, the Copa Pure 3s, and over those, the Copa Icons. And so being bottom of that list is just not great, especially for the money that it costs. So
it's just too much money.
I agree with you.
Too much money for very mediocre.
Yeah, I think mediocre is a good way. It's neither really good nor really bad. It's just nah. My disappointment of the year.
Yeah. If you want to talk about like a disappointing limited release, I kept that one off my list for the simple fact that the vast majority of people were not able to get these anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not like disappointing in the sense that like so many people got them, we're so excited about them, and then
yeah, I just feel I just feel so strongly about this. Again, this is a good example of the heel absolutely destroying the boot. They were so close, mate. They were so close, and they got it so right. The box, the numbered chrome hang tag, the little cheeky tongue is here. Even the Fly Touch upper material choice is brilliant because it does much of what you would expect Nike Skin to do in 2024. It's just way more comfortable. It has that synthetic-y feel to it, and it's still very soft, and the front half of the boot just fits so well. And then you have the heel, which is a total train wreck. I mean, obviously it's probably because they built it on their Vapor 16 last, which is made for a knitted football boot, which means that it's kind of round, and it doesn't really, the knit naturally hugs in afterwards. But this material does not, which means that you don't get that pinch on the heel that you would want to have a modern, well-fitting heel. And I'm not saying that I think Nike should have done that OG Vapor 1 heel fit because that was a blister machine and no one would like it today. Of course, no one liked it back then. I'm just saying that instead of this, maybe they should just give it something like this.
It's inexcusable given Nike's capability and track record.
And also, this is their arguably one of the 3 most iconic Nike boots ever.
Yeah.
And why has no one flagged in the Nike QC team or whatever? They're like, should we maybe take a look at the heel again just before we release it? Just a question, guys.
Final meeting, no one stood up and said, "Hey, why does it look like it was formed around a tennis ball?" Like
crazy.
It's that big and round. But again, track record. I understand that it's based off of a Vapor 16 sole plate, which is not a Vapor 1, but Vapor 8, 9, 10, 11 all have similar heel constructions in terms of materials used. They're capable of doing it right.
Of course they are. It's just a matter of dedication and, you're spending some money on it. And, maybe it wasn't feasible because they sold out anyways. Nike win here. Yeah. I'm just saying. But it's been a good year. Apart from a couple of disappointments, I know you've had other ones. Some recent ones. Maybe you're not as happy with the future as maybe I am. I'm not saying I'm really happy with it, but I don't think it's as bad as I think you feel. To me, it's. I even went as far as saying I think this is the second best Puma future they've ever made after the first one, which goes to show that I've never really fully taken to the future. Do I think this is brilliant? Maybe not, but I think if it matches the shape of your foot, it's actually it's a solid football boot. It's fun to strike the ball with. It's super restrictive with this outer layer. The inner layer for me is pretty comfortable. Heel is better, but definitely still needs some work. And I don't mind it. I'd rather wear the Preds. I'd rather wear the GXs and the DSKXs, but it's to me it's all right. And the most future of the futures since the first one. I know you don't share the same opinion.
No, I just think it's. I will never fault Puma for being creative and inventive because I do think there's a lot about that boot that's like, wow, legitimately interesting concept, even if you want to consider it to be a little bit gimmicky, which in a lot of ways, putting little rubber bumps on top of your foot, sandwich in between 2 layers of material to amplify your touch on the ball. Okay, sure. Yeah. Interesting. But at the same time, people are flocking to buy a fold-over flap tongue that effectively does absolutely nothing anyway. So
it looks cool.
Who knows what's going to be popular these days?
Cool.
But yeah,
don't hate on the tongue.
I know it's not the same thing, but it kind of is. Future 8 though, I just think at this point, it's so inexcusable when you're talking about a top-end model that is pushing $250 to not just feel good. And I think, again, you're in a Unisport store, downtown Copenhagen, you try on everything, ain't no way you're picking a Future 8 based on feel.
I think you might be right in saying that at least it depends on getting the shape right. Obviously for me, it matches the width of my foot. I'm lucky. It matches the width of my foot pretty well. It's too long for me, so I wouldn't pick it either. But with the width that I have on my foot, it's actually, I would say it's actually a solid fit if you can live with that slightly more snug, restrictive, secure fit. But I also said in my video that if you have a slightly wider foot, a little bit more volume, you will struggle for the upper to adapt to your foot because it doesn't stretch. So I agree with you. If you are in the Unisport store in Copenhagen or Paris or Stockholm or Oslo for that matter, Shameless plug.
Wow, there's that many? I didn't even know
Yeah,
that.
that many. Yeah, we're growing, mate. But yeah, I agree with you that it needs to match, and it's maybe not as generally appealing from the get-go as I think Puma want the Future to be, and as they've been in the past. I mean, Future 7, not my favorite boot by the stretch of the imagination, but it was more plug and play for me for more foot shapes, and that's where I feel this has a problem. That to me, it's a better football boot. I just think it's a little bit confused and a little bit contradictory. Obviously, Slipgate is a thing. We're not going to talk about that too much because it's like it is what it is. It's a dumb situation that the media blew out of proportion, I think. But it's not got nothing to do with the boot. Absolutely nothing. Like he kicked his own leg. He could wear whatever, the Ballon d'Or shoe. It wouldn't matter. He kicked his own fucking leg.
Yeah. I just think with Future 8, like, again, we've been brainwashed by all these companies to imply that control boots need to have more grip. These have less grip on the ball than the Puma Ultra Speed boot, which is totally silly. And then the other thing that a lot of people are not talking about, and I was genuinely surprised when I put them on a scale, the Future 8 is pretty heavy by modern standards.
Oh, they heavy, mate.
For no reason.
Yeah. And they're bottom heavy. It's like maybe they should make the studs, shorter because they're so long they could kill a man, and apparently it's just the extra plate, I think. But yeah, they're heavy.
Yeah,
and they're not as grippy as
just too many things they got wrong.
Granted, this is extremely grippy for whatever. I feel the carbon version is even grippier than the Ultra, but yeah, very grippy. And now we're on it. New Ultra. Arguably the best Ultra since the first one, at least, and to me also the most like speedy Ultra. But I prefer this, and I think a lot of people do. I was as excited as the next guy when these dropped. Carbon fiber, the best carbon fiber plate to me that we've ever seen. And it does really well, but it's just so extreme. And for me, it's just a better fit in the Ultimate, which is a phenomenal football boot. Is it like straightforward? Mesh upper, cool. Little bit of texture, cool. Very responsive outsole, great responsive stop pattern. Yeah. It works, but it's also a great alternative to the F50s and the Mercs and the Scudettas and everything else. One of the most, dare I say, apart from the Alphas and the Scudettas, I think this is the best, like raw hardcore speed boot on the market.
Yeah, I think what I like about Ultra 5 in general, whether you go for Ultimate or the carbon one, is it has that kind of sprinter's spike feel to it.
Yeah.
Which I'm a big fan of. I prefer, like you, a little bit more flexibility in the non-carbon plated one. I just think it ends up feeling better. It puts less pressure on my heel at least. Sure. But again, that's something that will vary a lot from person to person. They also have technically different heel constructions a little bit when you go between the two. But yeah, Ultra 5 Ultimate, sleeper speed boot of 2024 for sure. If you want, I know people look at the Mercs and the F50s as like the boots to have right now in that category, but I think Ultra 5 Ultimate is every bit as good. Ultra 5 Carbon, however, I think is an interesting one in the sense that I expected it to be, and you've told me kind of the same thing, a lot more popular than it ended up being, just because carbon fiber has been, I don't know, it's one of those things that people have been screaming for. Nike obviously popularized it, but it just didn't end up really. It kind of flew under the radar for the majority of the year.
Yeah, it kind of has. And maybe it was just, maybe it was too much too soon for Puma to go that crazy, basically, that extreme. You said sleeper speed boot of the year. Obviously, I mentioned the Alpha, which is not talked about enough. For me, that's one of the best boots on the market, period. Yeah. But also one of the best speed boots. The lockdown in those is phenomenal, responsive. Great football boot. Sakito Scudettas as well. Might as well just, for me, best new boot of the year. Has to be. It might as well have been the Messis. We'll touch on them in a second. But I just also want to give a shout out to Skechers and their Razor, which I think is very, very good as well. And it doesn't get talked enough about because it's Skechers and people like to clown on Skechers, maybe for good reason based on their sneaker game, right? But their football boots are actually, both that and the SKX, I like them a lot. So also shout out to them. Minor adjustments this year compared to last year's. I think they're a little bit better, but it is very much of like a 1.2. 1.3.
Yeah. I'm excited for them this year, though, because I want to see, I think as far as like 2 introductory football boots, they really couldn't have done a better job. As similar as they share a lot of elements with past football boots.
Oh, yeah.
But
Phantom GT3.
I'm just curious, can they improve upon what's already very good, which I think a lot of brands really screw up on. New Balance is such a good example of that when they kind of re-entered the football boot world with like, what was it? Original Vizaro, pretty good. Second gen Vizaro, disaster.
A disaster. Complete disaster. First few on, almost magnificently bad. It was terrible how much they could ruin it, right? Or they just sucked from the get-go. But
Yeah.
And looking back, the first Vizaro, I put it on now, I was like, Hypervenom, and it's actually not that great.
No, it's not. It's not. It was people being excited about some semblance of a Hypervenom being available again.
Oh, that's the thing. That's the thing. Which like Nike, you've given us the Vapor One. Hypervenom, please. Pretty please. 2025, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will take 10%. Back.
You are very welcome. They will go ape shit. On my friends, but now I mentioned this, so we might as well talk about it because I know that this is very close to you, as it is to mine. But you really love the F50s.
That to me has been throughout the majority of the year. If I was picking a current new release in 2024 to go play in right now, it's been the Messi F50 Elite. I just think I love the fact that Adidas went and finally gave us. Obviously not a 1-to-1 Messi spec football boot,
but it's closer than I thought though.
At this point it's pretty close. So it's really cool to get that element, and I actually do think that tongue feels better than the normal F50. Just because I've truthfully never been a fan of like tongues that have that little stirrup connection along the side. Not a fan of that. I like this burrito style, more open design. And again, I think that hybrid touch material, top notch.
Oh, that is good in it. That's like, And I say, Sakito Scudetta, boot of the year. It's unfair to not have this as boot of the year as well. Because it is ridiculously good. It is so good. The upper is phenomenal. The fit is fantastic. Slap a compression fit tongue in there. Just a standard U-throat, really, like they did on the Scudetta. We would be eating even better than we're already eating. You know what I mean? Terrible English there, Jay, but it's just like, wow, what a fantastic boot. Fantastic boot. The regular 50s also, I like it. I just like the Messis more, way more. Now that we're on Adidas. Talk to me.
Missed opportunity, biggest missed opportunity. We'll call it that.
You have such cool technology. You've worked for years, prototyping, developing, I went to Herzo to actually speak to some of the guys that developed this. And it's the concept is just brilliant. It works, a little bit of foam, dual plate outsole. It's there. But then they went and made it laceless for absolutely no reason at all. And it just goes against everything going on with the outsole. Basically, the upper is working against all the energy return you basically get from the outsole. The funny thing was, and I don't know if you saw the video or not, but when I went to Herzo to check out the prototypes, every single one of the prototypes had laces. This does not have laces. What? Why does... Yeah. So imagine if it had laces and maybe maybe an upper, I said in my video, maybe an upper, like resembling what we got on one of my favorite Adidas X uppers, what we got on the Crazy Fast Plus. That plus laces on this tooling. I'm not saying I would choose it over the Messis, but I'm just saying then you would actually have this, super extreme, very unique product that is playable and that makes sense from like also a performance point of view. So
a different upper a slightly different upper would have been pretty cool. To me, what's kind of funny about their choice to go laceless on F50 Plus is while I understand that the laceless thing has kind of become, while they're not the only ones anymore, it's synonymous with the Adidas brand at this point. It is viewed as their thing.
Yeah.
But given what they've done with Predator, given what they just did with Copa Pure. There seems to be a shifting away from laceless more so than ever before. Like we haven't seen one piece of marketing material for a laceless Pred 25, and obviously Copa Pure, just similar to the last generation, they've gotten away from laceless Copas. I really think even with F50, if it wasn't for the summer that Yamal has had, his 2024, I don't think the interest around a laceless F50 would even be that high to begin with.
No, it would probably be, he's
right.
Basically
so
the only,
it's kind of an interesting choice for them to go in that direction, given how little of a push they seem to have made on laceless in 2024.
You're right. It just didn't make any sense. It's probably like a design choice or whatever to make people think that it's more desirable. I don't understand, but missed opportunity. An opportunity they did not miss was to update what a brilliant segue, Jay.
Wow.
It was the opportunity to give the Predator a facelift. Just about a year after it first came out with the big update, and it's a facelift. This is not a totally new Predator. They changed the Hypertouch upper, so it's now 3 layers instead of 4. It's a little bit thinner. I find it to be a little bit softer. Thus, I prefer the fit in this. I find it to be a little bit more comfortable. They also scaled down the DSL rubber fins a little bit, the strike skin, which you may or may not like. I don't mind. It's still very grippy, but otherwise it's the same boot. So if you are out there, you just got a new pair of Pred 24s and you're getting hardcore FOMO because you just want these that are the newest ones, they look really cool, but don't. They've 95% of it, 90% of it's the same. And you'll have to basically put both boots on, 1 foot each, to feel the difference, I think. So I still prefer these. If you ask me, what would you choose? But that's based on the softness to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on the new. I like the new one more than the old one, just because I find the more streamlined strike skin element to be a little bit better, particularly when dribbling. I don't know if it's how I dribble, but I've always found that when you have too much grip on the inside of the foot, I kind of get caught up on the ball a little bit.
Yeah, how do you dribble?
From time to time. Not all the time, but
that's impressive.
Yeah.
I know you like to do the Trivela a lot. So when people, that's funny. So you kind of just reverse.
Yeah, just a little reverse, right? So I like what they've done there. I feel like I notice the rubber elements less when dribbling, which is ideally what I want in any kind of a boot with extra grip in the form of a striking element. I want to feel it when I'm striking the ball, not necessarily when I'm dribbling. Yeah. If you have a 24, there's really no reason to upgrade. And then there's that, which I have my gripes with Adidas on this one, because obviously there's huge demand for a leather Predator.
What?
Just
how can you have any... Go on.
Give it give it to everybody. Let everybody have a taste.
Yeah. That's you're right. Have it as an alternative, just like they have the women's fit and the laceless option for the F50s. Have the leather Predator Fusion Skin Pred as an inline thing, and maybe don't make 25,000 pairs, or however many they're making. Just make it a not a limited run, but just a responsible run. And let everyone have it. And, with that said, they gave us 2 drops of Fusion Skin Preds. And I know they were still myths to many people and you couldn't get your hands on them, but still, I mean, it's improvement. And hopefully they have also learned that they can sell more, so they will then ultimately make more. It's just good business, right? But what a pair of football boots, man. What a pair of football boots. If you try them,
it's the way that football boot should ultimately be.
I agree. And is it then the way to go in terms of saying this should be the inline Predator? The only thing I have with it is that the fit is ever so slightly, feels a little bit more roomy, ever so slightly wider than the inline Pred, which means that I like the fit better in the inline Pred, as much as I don't want to say it, but this is so comfortable and it feels more like the Pred should. Yeah. Phenomenal.
Yeah, because I think that's the one, if you want to complain about inline synthetic Predators, it's kind of like what I talked about at the start of the video. Everything is so thin these days.
Yeah.
So while it might look like an old school Pred with its fold over flap tongue, it still is if you get stepped on, you might end up in the hospital situation. Like it's still very, very thin.
But that you don't get, but that's the whole protection thing. And I know that whatever guy talks about. Yeah, that's just a joke. Hopefully it's a joke at this point because
I don't know.
Keep going. No, but it should be. Anyways, you can also get stepped on these and also end up in the hospital. You don't get better protection from like just wearing leather boots. Phenomenal. For me, best limited edition of 2024. I just want to give a shout out to this. Because this, I think, is the coolest looking boot that we just got this year. Cosmic Speed. Radiant coating on the grip.
Yeah.
The thing is that Cosmic Speed, the looks come at a cost. And that is that grip knit is not grip knit, it's just smooth knit. But it's just
smooth. Like, if you've wanted a Vapor 16 or a Superfly 10 without the extra grip, which I really like the change of grip knit, but I know that's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. Cosmic Speed is your answer to that, but unfortunately you're gonna have to pay like an extra $40.
You're right.
And also camp out.
Yeah. Ridiculously cool boot bag though. What have we not talked about? Oh yeah, speaking of how to do it right. This is how those were really, really cool. But here's the thing with Predator remakes at this point, Jay. I have a hard time getting super excited anymore because they've done it so many times. That's for sure the best variation of a Predator 94 ever. Oh, ever.
But yeah, if you look at
close.
Yeah, you want to talk about something disappointing.
Yeah.
That Predator Mania you're holding in your hand, made in Germany.
It's not what it should be.
When I heard made in Germany Predator, I was expecting the best football boot I've ever had on my feet. I really was. And I didn't get that.
Go on.
I ended up with something much less impressive than even what they released 2 years ago in the Zidane 2020, I think it was a 2022 Predator Mania. It only came out in soft ground. The quality on those far exceeds these made in Germany pairs.
But that was because it was on the Freak tooling or the Mutator tooling. It was the same tooling.
I think it was Freak.
But think back to like we got a Japan blue pair of Pred Manias, which is always awesome. But the problem was that they made a Japan blue pair of Manias like in the Tormentor pack. Which was better. It had K-leather and it had the split tooling. It was just a better Mania. And I don't think this is bad. I just got to go on record and say, I don't think it's bad. The calf leather upper is actually, it softens up really nicely, but it's just not, it just could have been better. And we got a lot of colorways. So maybe just, I get it, cool. But if you want to keep the excitement going around the Mania, don't remake it all the time. There are many other Predators that I'll say people, but I want to personally see. Sure. Power, please. Power Pulse, Power, what am I talking about? The Power Swerve is what I mean, of course. Power Pulse, that's the technology in it, Jay.
Pulse, we got one. We've gotten an Absolute. No. We haven't gotten Power Swerve. Power Swerve is probably as far back as you really want, as recent as you want to go.
Let's go.
Nobody wants a Predator X.
No. Hate that thing. Speaking of beautiful boots, I just wanna talk about it. Wow.
Very cool, Jay.
Wow. Shameless plug here. Obviously, this is done in collaboration with Puma. We have a great collaboration when it comes to making these special boots. 2025, we are going to celebrate our 30th anniversary. Unisport. Us.
Wow. Quick comment, not to interrupt you, but quick comment on those Pumas you just showed. You guys did a very good job on those. And
thank you. Keep talking.
Those are boots that do not come across in pictures and video like they do in person. Yeah. In person, the detail, we've seen so many graphics on football boots at this point, but the sharpness of those graphics and just the general color palette, that is a super cool pair of football boots.
It is. The Puma team just smashed this out of the park. Obviously, we're part of the creative process, but actually, doing the graphics and putting it all together, that's all them. Fantastic. What else? And we talked about the Phantom GX. We've talked about them plenty, but it feels like
we've talked about them on the podcast, just not in this episode. I think it's a great pair of football boots. Started a little bit rocky because obviously people were very upset about the implementation of Luna sole plate rather than GX1 sole plate. They kind of gave it to us on the AG Pro variation. But at the end of the day, I think it was a bit of a mistake in that, I don't know. It's funny with Nike because we look at Adidas and they tend to run sole plate tooling on 2 life cycles for every model. Yeah. Nike is a lot less, I'm going to use the word cheap because it's very expensive to develop new tooling, but they tend to give us new tooling much more frequently. Yes. Like every model seems to get something new. Yes. So the fact that Luna had such a short lifespan, like what did we get? 5 Luna colorways, maybe, until it was kind of destroyed and we got this GX2 Luna 2 situation, which was super confusing. I don't know why they decided to do that, but I don't know. It just seems like they slapped that sole plate on because like, oh, we spent all this money on developing it. We need to use it for another life cycle. And it was so poorly received with Luna. It was a surprising decision.
Yeah, I agree. Big disappointment for me as well. There were problems with the GX1 tooling, mainly in terms of how much it flexed in the mid. That was not my thing, but I love the stop pattern for that. And I only actually wear the GX2 right now when I go AG, so I can wear the AG plate. I don't like the FG. So it is what it is. Final thing we need to talk about, Josh, and I'm not sure if you've had these in hand yet, but we just got a remake
colorway
of the best football boot ever made. And you might be thinking those are big words, Jay, but I've said them for many years now, ever since the Wave Cup Legends came out back in, that's like many years ago. Wow.
There was the white ones and then there was the blue ones that we've gotten fairly recently.
Ones, the Rivaldos, right? But these, I just want to, fantastic. Obviously, same 1-to-1, everything is good. They only dropped in Asia. I mean, come on. I know Mizuno big in Asia, but come on. Like, wouldn't you want a pair of these?
I would 100% want it. There's quite a few Asian market football boots that are quite interesting, but they... Can I say something really quick? Because I get a lot of people, and I'm sure you do too, begging for reviews on ASICS football boots. I want to put this out there. I've reached out to ASICS. I reach out to them every couple months. They have told me straight up, we're not interested in sending Asian market football boots outside of Asian markets. Like it's how they want to operate. I don't know what to say about that other than that.
Yes, correct. I have no comments.
No comments.
So let's move on to talk about the Merc. Why did you have to bring that up? Mercurial Vapor 16 and Superfly 10. Basically just a mercurialized Phantom GX. Nah, that's not fair. But the Mercs are back. I feel that the Mercs are back, how they should be. What an absolutely phenomenal pair of football boots.
It's pound for pound in terms of like what you would want a speed boot to do, pretty much still as good as it gets. I think the Mercurials in recent years has kind of been the gold standard in terms of overall performance. Sure. So it's hard to criticize that boot other than I don't like grip knit, which if you don't like extra grip on the ball, it's more of a preference thing than anything. I understand it. But as far as where they could go from Vapor 15 and Superfly 9, I think they've actually done a pretty good job. And the fit is great. The comfort is arguably better. It's light. It does everything you want a speed boot to do.
Yeah. I think this is the first really worthy heir to that was a funny pun. I didn't even intend for that. It's the first worthy heir to the Vapor 13s, which I still believe are the best. Them and the Vapor 11s. But I think this completes the top 3 for me. It's that good. The shape is there.
Yeah.
It's sleek like a Mercurial should. It's super comfortable. I personally like grip knit. I could also do with like a standard, slightly tacky upper like on the Vapor 13s, but I think it's great. It's got a nice balance to it. Outsole, it would be interesting to see this outsole, but without the air zoom bagging. It's just a regular, maybe a little stiff board in the forefoot to see how that felt. Carvo maybe. Ooh, but yeah, just great football boot, and the material is well and truly back. I felt like they strayed a little bit too tried to be a little bit too generally appealing with the 14s and the 15s, right? 14s were all right, actually. They were all right. But the 15s were, to me, just a little bit wide, a little bit, and they were still good. But I think these are way better, personally. Personally, way better. And the 15s, looking back, are probably my least favorite, going back to 13, maybe even 12. Nah, probably like
12 wasn't 15. Good. I didn't think 12 was good.
Probably like 15 more than 12, yeah. It is what it is. So, to wrap it up, favorite boot of the year, Josh? It's getting dark. My camera's killing me.
Like, if I had to pick a pair to play in right now this second,
yes,
I really like Copa Icon 2. However, I do think that's a little bit of recency bias on my part, 100%. And it's also like very much me picking my favorite boot based on my own personal preferences. But all year long, it's been the Messi F50 for me. It has been.
Let me put it this way. I agree with you. Copa Icon 2 definitely would rock and have rocked in like, we had a training match just last week, and I was like, got to play well. It was on AG, so I couldn't wear the Scudettas, but I wore the Icons, and I loved it. Fantastic. Sakito Scudetta for me. Best boot of the year. And still, if we don't count new boots, Alphas, obviously. Many good boots. I swap between Scudettas, Alphas, Mercs, F50 Messis, and maybe now also the Copa Icon 2s regularly. But in the match day bag right now, if I can only have my 3 pairs that I usually try to keep, Scudettas, Alphas, Messis. Messis are better than Icons to me. Yeah. But they're good.
Sakito is also it's again so good. If you want to try something different outside of the big brands, Sakito is the way to go.
Absolutely, for 200 euros. It's like outside of the Copa Icon, it's up there. Best value for money. Messi F50 Messi Pro, phenomenal. Mizuno Monacida Neo at 160 euros is stupidly good too. 442s are decent, but they're getting more expensive. So yeah, and the Elite, the Morelia Elite, I haven't really checked the price for a while because they've always just been 200 euros, right? They're 220 now.
Oh, have they gone up, eh?
Yeah, well, it's been a while.
I just did the Canadian thing. Oh no.
What did the?
I did the A.
I'm so used to that. I don't hear it anymore. It's just
I try not to do it when I'm on the internet. I try not to, but I just did it.
You know what? What's even worse? I do it, mate. I do it. Even when I'm speaking Danish, I'm like, hey, this is bad. This is bad. And I do it on the internet as well. In meetings, business meetings, I go something, hey? That's like do you know what I'm saying? Man, you've ruined me.
In our semi-annual podcast, I'm rubbing off on you.
Yeah, that's not great.
That's not good.
And that was a very good way to wrap things up. Obviously, if you have any opinions on what we said, and you probably do, if you disagree or not, let us know in the comment section. I want to hear what your favorite boot of the year has been. Obviously, also stay tuned for 2025. I said Unisport 30th anniversary. It's going to be great. We have some cool stuff coming. One of the drops. There will be drops. I'm excited about a lot of them, but there's one in particular that when you see it, you will know, and you can just think back and was like, yeah, okay, Jay, that's the one Jay was talking about.
Warned us.
It is sick. Anyways, 2025, wicked. A Bootnerds podcast. Will we be back in full force? No, but we will be back. So be there. And Josh and everyone basically, my friend, have a fantastic new year. Thank you for 2024. Thanks for boot nerd talks and friendship and everything in between. And to all of you out there, same. Thanks for the support. We'll see each other soon. Hopefully. In 2025.
Yep, we will. We'll be back. I think we're going to try to do more than 2 in 2025.
Yeah, we're gonna. That's a promise.
I think we're going to
more than 2. Now my kid's older as well, so there's a little bit more time. So more than 2 is a promise. Just not every week.
Like 2.5, maybe.
Don't promise too much. That's like. Anyways, guys, see you around. I'm JayMike, and I approve of this message. Say something.
Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you soon.
Boom.
Bye.
Let's have it.